Good afternoon. First of all, I'd like to thank the Cupertino Library Foundation for allowing me to be here, both Henry and Sita. This is a very, very important topic. And so I want to make sure that I inform all of you as much as I can on scams, cybersecurity type crimes. Make no mistake, and you may hear me say this a few times, very underreported. This is something that I know, we all know happens every day, but yet we don't get all these calls letting us know that this is happening. So my goal here today, again, is to hopefully inform all of you of something that you didn't know before, something new, something that will get you thinking, maybe allow you to explore a little bit on your own. And so let me start my presentation. Let me see. Let's go here. Let me queue it up. I thought I had it queued up. I guess I don't. Okay. Okay, let's get started. So here's our agenda for today. We're going to talk some statistics. How are these crimes being tracked? How bad is the problem, right? I think that's one of the things that we all want to know. It's like, how does this look nationwide? But more importantly, how does this look here locally in the West Valley area? We're going to talk about mail theft. One of the most common ways for scammers, cyber criminals, to really take your identity, to do some damage, unfortunately, to your bank accounts, to your life savings, is through mail theft. So we want to spend a couple of minutes talking about mail theft. Check fraud. Check fraud, believe it or not, is still something that occurs out there. It is something that I think most people don't really understand how easy it is for these crooks and criminals to really use our checking accounts and clean us out relatively quickly. Tech support scams. We've all received them. Matter of fact, I received one and I'll share it with you not too long ago. We get them all the time. And so there are key takeaways, and I'll share those with you, that you can use to make sure that that email, that scam, that you can vet that information in a very simple way. Again, phishing scams, tech support scams are a form of phishing scams. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about a couple of other things that really go into play, especially this time of season with scams. And then personal safety. We'll round it up with personal safety. Okay, so breaches and cyber complaints. One of the things we know, as I mentioned before, is cyber complaints, cyber crimes occur all the time. And so it is difficult for us to really understand how big of an issue this is if people do not report it. And so it's important that residents understand that you need to report this information to us. Oftentimes what we do is we get little pieces of information from one resident that ties into information from another resident, and we're able to actually make a case on that. And so it's important to understand that even though you may think that you don't have any suspect information or anything other than a time frame when something happened, and it's not really relevant to law enforcement, I urge you to call us anyways, because that piece of information very well may be critical to us solving something else. And so here, really, the purpose of me sharing this is just to kind of show you in the last 5 years where we're going with breaches and cyber complaints. And this is from the Identity Theft Resource Center. What they do is, it's a nonprofit organization. What they do is they aggregate data nationwide. And so they're able to get a lot of information, oftentimes information that would be difficult to get unless you contacted all the all the different law enforcement organizations. And so the takeaway here really is that we continue to receive a lot of complaints related to breaches and cyber complaints. Just last week, unfortunately, and again, it happens, just last week, we had a situation here locally where somebody broke into a business, was not a bank. It was a business that deals with high finance. And guess what they took? Files. Files were stolen. And so you ask yourself, well, they're just files, there's pieces of paper. There's a lot of damage, a lot of crimes that can occur, obviously, with people's personal information. And so we know that organization is going to be reaching out to folks, letting them know that happened. And again, it does happen often. I would say once a week or so, we find out that an organization was broken into and stuff was stolen that have people's identity. So it's important that we realize that there are things that we can do to protect ourselves. So this is a nationwide data. This is nationwide. Locally here, right? I mentioned we have a 10-year span here in front of you. And so if we look back at 2010, and again, these are reported. And what we know is they're unfortunately very underreported type of crime. And so you have 208 or so that occurred in 2010. And it kind of goes all over the place. In 2015, we did see a spike. And I don't know why. Don't know why that year we had a pretty significant spike, but then it kind of starts to go down a little bit. 2020 so far this year, we've had 195 calls. These are people that residents are calling us to report identity theft, forgery, fraud, scams, if you will. And so this data is specific to Cupertino, Saratoga, Los Altos Hills, and all the unincorporated areas of the western Santa Clara County area. So I'll leave it there for a minute. And here's another way to look at it. Again, it is something that if we don't get a report, we won't tabulate it, obviously. So it is something that we want residents to let us know it is occurring so that we can get a better idea in terms of resources. How many detectives should we assign to this problem? I can tell you right now, we do have a significant amount of detectives working these scams, but unfortunately, and the crooks know this, it does take a lot of time for us to investigate these. And so I'll give you an example. When I was working as a detective, working these scams, it would take me about a day for one case because I needed to author a search warrant. I needed to do some research. And so we would get, 5 to 10 a day. And so it would be a difficult crime to investigate. However, when we did find suspects, they were usually guilty of at least a dozen or so of these types of cases we're going to talk about.
Actually, that's a question, Captain, that we had is, when they are hitting our area, do they actually come and then preferentially hit our area, or are they just popping all around the United States?
Yeah, good question. So what we know is when we're talking about scams, we're really talking about a pretty broad area. And so when we're looking at computer cyber type scams that we're going to dive into here a little bit more in a second, we know that most of those are coming from out of the country. And they're coming, unfortunately, from countries that don't really like us very much. Having the pleasure of working some of those cases, it's very sad when I track an IP address. In other words, where that information came from that ultimately led to some type of fraud with our victim, that it comes from, let's say, Russia or China or the Philippines. As much as I'd like to go to the Philippines, my bosses wouldn't let me go. So what do I do with that? And unfortunately, Interpol, that's international police, there are certain thresholds that need to be met before they can help. And so oftentimes, you know, we run out of leads, and you may be out $10,000-$20,000, and there's really nothing that we can do on our end because they're from out of the country. Now, with some of this identity theft that we're going to talk about here in a second, believe it or not, a lot of these are actually in the United States. A lot of the folks that end up stealing our mail and causing havoc to our accounts or our bank accounts are actually in the States. So it's just a matter of tracking them down. So this is one of the questions that I get often, and that is, what happens when my mail is stolen? Again, one of those things where it's so underreported that we really don't have a good idea as to how much mail has been stolen from the area. With the stealing of mail, some of these crooks, right? What are they trying to get? What are they really trying to get when they steal our mail? You think about the bills that we get in the mail, right? Whether it's PG&E, whether it's a car loan that you owe on, it's got a lot of personal information on there, right? You have bank statements, financial statements, checks, right? Many of us still get checks in the mail. Credit card offers. These are offers that, you know, they have all your information on there, and it says, hey, if you'd like to get this 0 interest loan from this credit card company, you know, fill this out, send it in, and then we'll send you the card. Well, a lot of crooks, what they do is they get those, fill them out, and then redirect that information somewhere else. And so what they're able to do is essentially get a credit card in your name. Unbeknownst to you, you know, here's a group of folks that are using your information to buy things. Income statements, you know, unfortunately, these things do come in the mail. And so it's important for us to make sure that we get our mail quickly as soon as it's delivered, or at least be aware of when it's delivered and maybe have somebody pick it up for us. A lot of tax information comes through the mail. A lot of employment type papers come through the mail. And so it's important that if you do collect your mail, hopefully right after it's delivered, when you're trying to get rid of it, it's important that you shred it. Probably the best way to get rid of your important documents that you don't want other folks to see or have access to is to shred it. I will say that in the past, you know, we have uncovered people that were going through garbage cans, you know, stealing mail, getting some personal information so that they can open up accounts. Best way to do that, again, is to make sure that you get your mail right away, and then you shred those things that contain a lot of personal information. I'm going to share a couple of photos here. These are actual crooks. These are people that we're looking for. We have not been able to identify. And here what we're looking at is, on the right of your screen, it's a little bit late in the evening. I believe this was towards midnight or so. We had a car drive up, and a guy just comes out, goes straight to the mailbox, opens it up, takes the mail. To your left is a gentleman that walked up, and this was, I believe, around 6 or so it wasn't that late. Went right up to the front of the door, and, you know, there's that mailbox to the side, and just started filtering through the mail and taking it. Here are two images of the same person. This is a case we worked on 2 weeks ago. And what happened here is somebody got access to the victim's bank account information. And this person posed as our victim in Miami. And so what we're tracking is potentially somebody in this area, in the West Valley area, Santa Clara County area, that is stealing mail and then sharing the information, whether it's your bank account numbers, your name, somewhere on the East Coast, Florida, so that they can create fake IDs, accounts, and then go to banks and steal your money. I believe this person ended up walking away with $4,000 cash from our victim. Again, it's extremely important that folks understand that this is something that we see daily in some sorts daily, we get these scams, whether it's this one, whether it's somebody who's opening up a credit card account. It is happening all the time. And as I mentioned before, it would take us, about a day or so to investigate each case. And that's a lot of time. In this particular case, what we normally do when we have images is we share these images with folks in our area, or in this case, Florida. And we ask for anyone who may have seen this person to contact us.
So, Captain, if we see somebody doing something like going up to people's mailboxes or something like this, what do you recommend? I mean, I doubt if many of us want to go up and confront the person, but we might not be opposed to getting their car red license number off the car. What else do you recommend?
Yeah, absolutely. Good question. So one of the things we don't recommend is to really engage the individual. We don't recommend folks go out there and start yelling at the person that just drove up to your mailbox. And the reason is because we don't know who they are. We don't know if they're capable of any violence. Quite frankly, if they're stealing your mail, let them steal it. The alternative to that is you being hurt because this guy really wants your mail. And so what we ask residents to do is, if you can, take a photo of the vehicle, the person, write down the license plate, write down what that person looks like, get as much information as you can from a safe place, which is usually in your home, and then call 911 right away. What we know is the quicker you call us, our response times in Cupertino, Saratoga, Los Altos Hills is about 5 minutes or so, depending on the type of call, but we will be there relatively quickly. And we'll set up a perimeter and we'll do what we have to catch these folks. But our recommendation is definitely don't engage these people. We don't know who they are. They may be capable of some violence. So please don't do that. Just get as much information as you can and then call us. I'm going to leave this up for a few minutes here. This is a really good summary of things that you can do to prevent identity theft. And again, when I talk about identity theft, I'm talking about, it's a very broad area. We're talking about folks that take your information, open up accounts, open up, I hate to say it, but they actually get driver's license IDs in other states because they look a little different. They get a lot of your information from and we'll get into it here in just a second with phishing crimes, but with a lot of access to your personal accounts. The most common way for them to get this information is definitely stealing your mail. And so it's important that you don't just throw away your mail in the garbage. Make sure that you shred it.
Captain, I know I've read about doing something with these I forget what they're called, the 3 bureaus that people check on your credit with, and they said you can actually put a freeze on it. In fact, I think there are some commercial things that you can sign up for a few dollars a month. Is that where? Oh, here you go.
Very good lead into this section here, Henry. So, one way to minimize being a victim is definitely to monitor your credit report. You can place a fraud alert on your account or a security freeze. There are different levels of a fraud alert you can put, 1, 2, or 3, depending on what you want. On the one hand, you can allow transactions to go through using your account information, so long as they notify you. And there are some circumstances where you just absolutely don't want that. A security freeze is just that. Nothing's going to get through unless you're contacted. And so you can go to, any of these. I would recommend all 3. Again, this is in the event that you feel like maybe your mail was stolen. Somebody may have purchased something in your name and you got a bill and you're thinking, why am I getting this bill? You definitely want to pull your credit reports. I don't mind telling you, I've been a victim of scams, identity theft, I don't know, half a dozen times. My daughter, she's 23 years old, just graduated college, smart young lady. She's been a victim these the last couple months. And that's because she doesn't monitor her accounts as much as she should. But my recommendation is every week you should be monitoring your accounts, whether it's your bank account, if you have a mutual fund account, whatever type of accounts you have, it's important you monitor them. Another thing that's important to do is our recommendation is that if you do make purchases online or purchases like gas or grocery store or anywhere, if you can, use your credit card. And the reason is because there are a lot more protections that are afforded to you by using a credit card than using your ATM debit card, right? So unfortunately, we have seen what we call skimmers. These are these devices that are attached to the gas pumps. And when we insert our ATM card or credit card and type in our numbers, it records that information, and the crooks will come up at a later time and steal that information. And now they have all our information. What they're able to do with that is create a blank card that has that information on it with that strip on the side. And they use that to buy things online, again, to get gas somewhere else. And so it's important, if you can, to use a credit card anytime you make purchases online specifically, but also around town if you can, because again, it'll give you more protections. All right, fake checks.
Yeah, Captain, right before that, one of our listeners, Larry Wright, he said a suggestion that he and his wife use is they actually use a secure mailbox. And they said that can really help. Now, I know you could also do a postal box or something like that, but that seems like an interesting suggestion Larry made.
Absolutely, and absolutely good suggestion. Locking mailboxes, quite frankly, if you don't have one, you're inviting theft. What we've seen, because we do have deputies that are driving around in unmarked cars, kind of monitoring the mail and UPS and so on and so forth. And what we've seen is these crooks will actually bypass homes that do have some sort of locking mechanism on their mailboxes. Why? Because they don't want to spend the time, right, to break into that mailbox. Instead, they'll find mailboxes that don't have any kind of locking mechanism. Now, with that being said, we have seen mailboxes that have been broken into that did have locks. However, again, the crooks, they're lazy. They want to make that quick dollar. And if they see a mailbox that has a lock and one that doesn't, well, you can kind of guess where they're going to go. P.O. boxes are really good as well to get your mail at the post office. Absolutely a great way to protect your mail. Then you can also sign up for delivery. It's called delivered mail. It basically scans all your mail and it sends you an email. The post office will send you an email where they have images of the mail that you're receiving that day. I believe it's called preferred mail. But if you go to the USPS website, you could find all the information on there. So fake checks. Fake checks is something, again, we're starting to see an increase on here towards the end of the year. Believe it or not, these 3 checks that you have here in front of you are fake, right? How would you know that these are fake? Well, sometimes it's, the paper quality, right? Sometimes it's obvious, but I can guarantee you these 3 checks, it's not obvious, especially the one from Google. And so oftentimes what happens is somebody will pay for something using one of these checks. Let's say, for example, you want to sell a car and you put it on Craigslist and you say, hey, I want $1,500 for my car. And this gentleman here sends you a check. Let's see if I can do this laser for $1,240. Let's say you wanted $1,000 for the car, and he sends you this check. Very common scam we're seeing. And they'll call you and say, well, I sent you $240 too much. Can you just send me that money in a wire transfer or another check? And then by the time your check clears, this one, it actually bounces, it doesn't clear. They've actually run out with $240. And hopefully not, but possibly your car as well. And so another scam related to these checks is the rental of homes, right? And so I'll give you an example. It just happened not too long ago. I believe it was last week. We had 2 or 3 of these types of cases where somebody is trying to scam a resident, a future resident, by taking a photo of a home in Cupertino, posting it on Craigslist and saying, this home is for rent for $1,500 a month. Well, those of you that know the rental market know that $1,500 a month is actually a really good deal. And so you will get people that want to rent that house for $1,500. There's a lot of contact information on Craigslist. Before you know it, somebody from, I don't know, the East Coast or Midwest sends $1,500 to this suspect, this crook, who has no connection to the property at all, and then takes the money and just disappears, takes off, right? Has fake ID, cashes it, takes the money. And then that person who sent the money is thinking, okay, I'm going to rent this house in Cupertino because I sent the money, and they said, okay, come get your keys. And unfortunately, those folks do come to town expecting to move into this home, only to realize that it was a scam. And we've had a handful of those in the last few weeks. And the way that you want to get around that is to take your time. If you do get a check from somebody for something, don't send the product, don't send any money, don't do anything, but confirm that that check is in fact a good check. Oftentimes you'll see that it's not, depending on what vehicle you used to sell your product. And so it's important that you really pay attention to these checks you're getting. Don't rush into sending people money back. If somebody sends you a check with more money than you asked, I would definitely be leery on that, especially if they're asking you to send money back. Again, these are the most common scams that we see. You win a prize and are told to send back taxes and fees. Very common. You sold an item online and the buyer overpays you, as I just mentioned. People just want to buy time, right? And so they'll send you that check. They know that the check's not going to post for a few days, and now they're asking you to wire back money or wire back a check or give them some gift cards or what have you. You get paid as a secret shopper and are told you to wire back money. It's always about wiring back money, sending people money before that original check is able to post.
Captain, 2 events ago at the fake news, one of our audience members was telling us about one that had recently hit them. They were given they got in the mail a debit card that had money on it, and it was a small amount of money, and it was supposedly for being some type of secret shopper or get a rewards program thing, and it looked legitimate. It was from a real bank, and the instructions were, to continue getting more things on it, you got to hook us up with your bank and we'll transfer funds. And it was like Scott Bank or something like this. And so they were asking about, because it was happening to them real time right then and there. And it turned out that, we Googled it, and this was a known scam. What they were doing was there was a second person also on that account. And as soon as they hooked a legitimate account to it, they drained it. So, I think these guys are getting pretty good. I mean, they were actually willing to front, 15 or 20 bucks just to do this.
Yeah.
So clearly it works.
Yeah. And if you do the math there, if you send $10, $15, $20, let's say to 100 people with that type of a scam attached to it, you really only need 1 or 2 people to be able to catch on and attach their own account to that card, because you're probably going to make more money right there than the money you sent out, right? And so I think the key to that scam is to make sure that you talk to someone, because it just doesn't sound right, right? And so if you talk to somebody about what you're doing or what information you receive, odds are somebody's going to say, that just doesn't sound right. You need to look into that a little bit more.
We literally were, while the event was going on, we Googled it, and bang, there it was right away. Tell them exactly what was happening. And so, yeah, I think that's a very important point. Talk to your friends and your relatives and other people, because it's quite possible that someone else has heard about this, or just take a couple minutes and go search for it. Have somebody search for it.
Absolutely. We're going to jump into phishing type scams here, and I'm going to share a video from the Federal Trade Commission. I think they do a really good job of just painting that picture of this issue. And we'll talk a little bit more about these tech support scams, phishing scams after the video. The video is only about 3 minutes long.
My name is Don Holmes. I live in Sun City West, Arizona. In this community, we're all seniors. After you move in here, even if you don't know anybody, you get to know other people you enjoy doing things with. I use a computer predominantly for email and to get the news. One day, a thing pops up and kind of blocks the screen and says, you've got all kinds of viruses in your computer. The design of the pop-up had a Microsoft logo on the top, and they had a number. And I couldn't get rid of this thing on the screen. Turned the computer off, turned it back on, still there. So I called the number. They identified themselves as Microsoft. I had no feeling that there was anything wrong.
Tech support scams are real, and they're causing enormous consumer injury, hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, and that's just based on the FTC's own law enforcement work. Just like Mr. Holmes, a lot of people are getting pop-ups on their screens, and often they claim to be associated with a company such as Microsoft or Apple, giving them lots of credibility.
They told me they would clear what they considered to be malware in there. In order to clear it up, they needed to get into my computer and have my control of the computer turned over to them. So I gave them my password. They went in, the thing came off of the screen. When I went back to my computer the next day, I couldn't access my files.
You'd never let a stranger into your house. Don't let one into your computer. If you get a pop-up, don't click on a link. If you get a phone call from someone who says your computer's security is at risk, don't listen to them. Stop. Take the time to talk to a friend, talk to a family member.
When this happened to me, I was a little bit embarrassed. I mean, I consider myself fairly alert, but I was targeted and I was scammed. I didn't really want to talk about this, but I realized that if I didn't talk about it, that if I didn't file the complaint with the Attorney General, that if I didn't file a complaint with the FTC, that I would have shrunk into myself. And by talking about it, by talking to all my friends,
they're not amateurs, Don.
I began to realize that they also started talking, and they started indicating that they had experienced similar things. That kind of community, that kind of exposure, it's not an embarrassment, it's just something that happens when you're a senior. You have to talk about to other seniors. What I would suggest is contact the FTC. They have a website. You can fill out a complaint online. We can be empowered with your family, your friends, and other people within your community to try to put a stop, or at least protect ourselves from these kinds of scams.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's as you mentioned, Captain, up at the very beginning, this embarrassment factor is real, and it's important for us to get over it. Otherwise, we won't be able to really help each other out.
Absolutely. The key there in that video is anytime you suspect something's not right, you need to talk to somebody about it. We have extremely educated folks that work here for the Sheriff's Office dealing with this. And I'm sure other police departments have their expertise as well, that are able just to talk to you about what you're looking at on your screen. Whether it's this that you have in front of you right now, something like this, perhaps somebody called you, but you definitely want to talk to someone. And if you have no one to talk to, call us. Our phone number is at on the last slide, but it's 408-868-6600. That's our office line in here in our office, 408-868-6600. Okay, so I'm sure probably every single one of you have seen these pop-ups, right? Tech support scams. So this is a type of phishing scam. The goal here is to get your information, to mine your information from your computer. So what we know is that these phishing scams use these fake emails. Yes, they use fake text messages as well. They use a lot of copycat type images, like the ones you see in front of you there. And their goal here really is for you to click on any of these. Because what will happen is if you click on these or if you call the number, they'll give you directions what to do so that they can get into your computer under the guise of, I'm trying to help you. I personally received a phone call here in my office, believe it or not, somebody who was telling me that my computer was infected, even though my computer wasn't even on. You know what, I'll play along with you. And he was telling me what to do. And the one thing that I caught was that it was difficult to hear him, right? And the reason is because they are literally, these scammers that are, clearly this was somebody from another country, but they are actually in like a warehouse, like a big warehouse, and it echoes. And so when you have hundreds of people talking, right, it's kind of difficult to hear them. And so that's always a hint. It's like, why is there so many people talking in the background? But these here, I'm sure are pop-ups that you've received. The key here is to contact the company if you're unsure, right? You want to make sure you contact Apple, Microsoft, whomever. Don't call the number that pops up. If you have a customer rep person that you can talk to because you've dealt with them before, call them before you click on anything. As Henry had mentioned, you can always, one of the first things I do is go to Google and type in, you know, suspicious activity found on my computer pop-up and see what happens. And you'll see that a lot of people are saying this is a scam, right? And these are some of the most common ones here that are in front of you. But there are some out there that are quite difficult to be able to decipher whether or not they're fake. And I'm going to share some of these with you here. Okay, so are these scams or are these real ads? We'll start on the left here. Let me get my pointer. So this is a Netflix text message that my wife received August 3rd, 2020, right? Like probably many of you, we do have a Netflix account. And so my wife received this message, and it basically says, hey, you didn't pay, something was wrong with your account, you know, try again the payment, press here. The key to all these is to take your time to read what they're saying. And if you take your time, you'll find that they're scams. And for this one, the first thing that I keyed in on, right, was this questions down here at the bottom. It's probably difficult to see, but it's not your standard number. It's 1-800-071-578. It's missing a digit. It's like, wait a second, why is it missing a digit? Oh, well, that's a hint that this is a fake account. If you read it, you'll see that the grammar is off as well. This FedEx one, again, you know, if you slow down, if you read what they're saying, you'll notice that there's something's not right. I'll read this to you. It says, the parcel was sent your home address. The parcel was sent your home address. Wait, what? Did they mean to say the parcel was sent to my home address, right? And then you have another sentence that says, you know, it's a full sentence, and it will arrive within 7 business days. What? Wait, is that there's some grammatical issues with both of these sentences here, right? And that's a hint, because as you'll see with the other ones, if you take the time to really read what they're spelling out there and the words they're using, Yeah, you're probably going to come to the conclusion that it's definitely a scam. This is my favorite one here. The Clorox help prevent the spread of coronavirus. Free shipping over $50, 3 days flash sale. Anybody see a problem with this? How do you spell shipping? Yeah, there's a P missing there, right? And so the right away, and again, if you read free shipping over 50, 3 days flash sale, it doesn't sound right, right? So what you want to do again is go to Google, go to the Clorox website, and vet this information. Find out if they are having sales. This one here is great. Amazon refund notification. And listen, my wife buys a lot of things on Amazon. If they're telling me that I'm getting a refund, I'm probably going to look into it, right? And so you look at the sentence, due to the system error, you were double charged for your last order. You have a comma and then a capital A. Wait a second. I remember after a comma, it's actually a small a, not a capital A, right? Unless there's a period at the end. So this is kind of fishy there. The process was initiated but could not be completed due to errors in your billing information. Well, there's an extra space between in and your, and then there's no period after information. It's like, wait a second, I already found too many errors here. I know some of the college kids that are coming out of college are, they may have their challenges with grammar, but this is just ridiculous, right? And so that should give you a hint right there. Okay, there's something wrong. My wife is not getting a refund. I'm going to contact Amazon. Do not click on any of these sites. Do not click here. Do not click anywhere here. Go to a different web browser website. Go into their actual site and then do some research there. But again, you're going to, if you haven't already, you're going to receive many of these as we get into the holiday season. It's important that you take the time to really read what they're saying. You will catch grammatical issues, problems with some of these large companies, but not like this. This is definitely somebody from out of this country that's trying to scam you.
Captain, it's interesting here in Cupertino because we have a very multicultural area, and I happen to be Asian, East Asian, and so we'll get all of these calls and things in Chinese as well, and it's really interesting because they try to sound very official, but same type of deal.
Absolutely. Grandkid scam. Okay, and all these scams that I'm talking about today are scams that we have seen here. We continue to see here in the West Valley Patrol Division. I went through all our data the last few weeks and looked at what types of scams would be important to discuss with you all today. And this was one of those where it continues to increase. And I know a lot of folks have received these calls. I know for a fact a lot of folks have not reported it because it is a little bit embarrassing. We understand that, but we again encourage you to report it. And so the scam goes a little bit like this. You get a phone call, oftentimes it's late in the evening, and the person says on the other line, "Hi, Grandpa or Grandma, it's your grandson." Doesn't tell you which grandson, right? And so what do we normally say under those conditions? Well, you're processing the information and you're thinking, John, Mike, right? You probably just say, "Is this Mike?" And then you just gave that scammer grandson's name, Mike. "Yes, it's Mike. How are you, Grandma, Grandpa? I need your help." And of course, now since they're using their name that you know them by, you're thinking it really is them. And you say, "Oh my God, Mike, how are you? What's happening?" And of course, we want to help our grandkids. And they say, "Well, I need money for bail. I got arrested, or I need medicine, or I have to pay this parking ticket, or I'm stuck in LA and I need to get back to San Francisco, but I ran out of money because they put a hold on my credit card," right? They'll use an excuse that has a sense of urgency behind it. In other words, They're trying to do something right away, get out of jail, get some medicine, pay something. It puts that sense of urgency on us, and it makes us feel like, oh my God, I got to help them. And so what we end up doing is wiring money or going to the store to buy some gift cards, because Mike has convinced us that they need $500 right now. And the best way to do it is to use the Visa gift card that you can get at CVS or any of these stores, or whatever kind of gift card. For whatever scam reason they came up with, that card or that wire transfer is the best way to help them. And the reason that a lot of us fall to this type of scam is because they're attacking, our family. They're pretending to be someone we love, and of course we're going to help those that we love if we can. And so, again, because it is embarrassing after you wire the money or provide the gift card for $500, $1,000. An hour passes and you talk to Mike. You call him back maybe on his number, and he answers, and you tell him, hey, did you get the money? He says, what are you talking about? And at that point, you've been scammed. And it is kind of embarrassing, and folks don't call us. Again, we need to know this information. We have an analyst that works here in the office. That's all she does is looks at these kinds of these kinds of scams, and is able to put cases together based on what they say, where the call is coming from. And if anything, we're able to relate to other agencies, to the community at large on this type of scam. We have gotten a lot of these scams this year. And I know, again, we've received a lot more. It's just community members aren't calling us on this.
So, Captain, on this one, I've had this actually happen to me, and I don't have grandkids. But it's always suspicious when they can tell you exactly what to do. I mean, they got that part down pat, right? And so when they tell you to go to the 24-hour pharmacy and buy the things, that's a really good one to come up with. The other thing that a friend of mine, Danny, does is he mentions the name of a grandkid that's not its grandkid, right? See if they go with it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a question from one of the audience asking, he or she lives in Sunnyvale. They want to know, could they call the 868-6600 number as well to report a scam, or should they call a different one?
Yeah, they should. If they live in the city of Sunnyvale, they definitely want to contact their local police department, which would be Sunnyvale Police Department.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, you can go online and find them and talk to them about any concerns you may have with scams. We all have a really good working relationship in the West Valley, Sunnyvale, Palo Alto, Los Altos, Los Gatos. And so if there's something that we're seeing here, and let's say in Cupertino, a type of scam, we definitely will share it. And so everyone should be on the same page in terms of what we're seeing with scams. And so we definitely encourage folks to contact their local police department. Yeah.
And, another question about this, because with the grandkid scam, you're going to get hit for $500 to $1,000 typically, and they're not going to get $100,000 out of you this way. But do they sell your information to the other scammers because they got you once and now you're maybe an easier target?
Yeah, we have not seen that. We have not seen somebody who's been scammed twice with this type of scam, the grandkid scam. Not to say it hasn't happened, but from all the reports that I've read, we haven't had somebody be scammed twice on this.
Yeah, I was just wondering whether they'd be selling you to the guy that moves upstream and be doing one of the other types of scams that could happen on it, because, they found you gullible. They got you once, get you a different way next time.
Quite possible. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, I think that's one of the really important things for our audience to understand too. It's a cat and mouse game, right? Mm-hmm. 10 years ago, it was far less sophisticated than what you're seeing and showing us today. Probably 10 years from now, this is going to look like child's play again, because they keep up in their game. And as soon as we can, try to protect ourselves, there's another smarter guy out there trying to scam you.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we're going to go from the grandkid scam to talking a little bit about a virtual kidnapping. Let's see what happened here.
I want to remind the audience that we are happy to take questions or any comments or insights that you have. Please be happy to share that with the rest of the audience. Thank you.
So virtual kidnapping. I wanted to bring this up, not because we're seeing a lot of it, but because it is something that, again, has definitely increased in other parts of the country. We have had, I want to say maybe half a dozen of these in the last 4 years or so. They're extremely terrifying. And so what happens is you receive a phone call. It always starts with the phone call. And somebody is saying to you that they have kidnapped somebody that you know. So the last one that I recall, a gentleman said that he had received a phone call saying that his daughter was kidnapped, right? And so he was smart. He actually started driving here to our station. This was during the day. We were here, I was here, and he was on the phone with somebody saying that they had his daughter and they wanted him to wire some money to a particular account. Now, they threatened him and his daughter on the phone by saying, if you hang up, you know, I'm going to hurt your daughter. They knew her name, right? If you go to the police, we're going to hurt your daughter. If you do anything other than what we tell you, we're going to hurt your daughter. And again, he's on the phone talking to this guy. Very scary situation. Now, did he want to take a chance to hang up the phone? You know, probably not, right? And so he wasn't sure what to do. So he started driving here. What they wanted him to do is send over, it wasn't even, you know, a lot of money. I don't recall, but I want to say it's like $500 or $1,000. Right? And so you think, well, that's, you know, for peace of mind to know that my daughter's fine, of course, I'll send you that money. But others in other parts of the country, we're seeing thousands of dollars being sent over using the scam. And so what we're telling folks is, first of all, you want to stay calm when you get that kind of a call. If you have another way to contact your loved one, for example, if you have a second cell phone, maybe a landline, a home line, maybe they called you on the home line, and so you can use your cell phone to make sure that that person's okay. You want to definitely do that. The key here is to really stay calm, to try to engage in a conversation, to really understand what's going on. I can tell you, if somebody's calling you saying, we have your daughter, they're kidnapped, we want you to send this amount of money using a wire transfer to Mexico or to whatever country, it's going to be a scam. It's going to be a scam. But again, what we recommend is while you have that person on the phone, okay, see if you can contact that person they're making reference to. Now, your question is, well, how did they get all this information, right? Well, unfortunately, a lot of people are on social media, right? And you have Facebook, you have Twitter, you have all these accounts where we put information on there. It's profile information, like whether you're married, whether you're single, how many kids you have. There's a phone number associated to that. There's a lot of information on your social media. And so that's where they're getting this information and calling you. Oftentimes, you will say, and let's say you're using Facebook or one of these social media accounts, you know, on my way to Miami, can't wait to see my grandson, Charlie, right? And so now you just told everyone, you know, where you're going and who you're going to see. And so now they can say, you know, hi, I have your son Charlie over here in Miami or wherever. And if you don't do what I say, you know, he's going to get hurt. And so again, we've seen about half a dozen of these or so. None of them ended up scamming, as far as I know, residents, because it's just the residents were smart enough to realize that This wasn't happening. It was somebody just trying to scam them out of some money. Construction scams. All right. So again, as I mentioned before, I was looking at the scams we're getting reported, and these are some of the ones that we wanted to make sure residents were aware of. Construction scams. And in the bottom left corner, I have the website to the California, it's basically the labor board organization that actually monitors, it's contractors state license board. And you can click on that and you get a lot of information, but we are seeing people going door to door trying to scam folks out of things, right? One of the things we want to point out is that if we have folks going door to door trying to sell you something, they need to have credentials. They need to be registered with the city, right? And so don't ever feel like you need to buy anything from anyone that's going door to door. You could always ask for their information, business card, and always call them back once you do your homework. And it's really about that, about doing some research to see if in fact these folks are legitimate. High pressure sales, right? This is usually a fast talking person who pushes you to do some work, right? And the reason that they want to do this is because they don't want to give you the time to go out and get these 3 quotes that, we recommend. And so they try to say, hey, this is a 1-day type sale. I have extra, wood. I have extra carpet. I have extra shingles for your roof, whatever the case may be. Slow down. Again, you should never be making decisions on the spot. You always want to do your research. Scare tactics. This is an area where somebody will say, hey, I was in a neighborhood inspecting pipelines, inspecting roofs, inspecting garages, whatever the case may be. And I noticed that on the side of your house, you have, a pipe that's sticking out, and you may very well have that pipe. And now they're scaring you, saying, you got to fix that. I can fix it for you now. I don't have to report it. They try to scare you into agreeing to do some kind of work. Absolutely. Again, take your time. Don't fall for those types of scams. Get their information and then look into it yourself. Verbal agreements, we all know if it wasn't put in writing, it never happened, right? Never agree to anything verbally. Always have things written down in a contract so that it's clear in terms of what you're responsible for, what they're responsible for. Demand cash. We have seen this where, somebody does some work and says, I need just cash, no checks, no nothing. Again, for whatever reason, they don't want to use a bank, and so now they're asking you for cash. Oftentimes they'll even drive you so that you can go to the bank and get cash. Again, if it's a significant amount of money, you should never pay in cash. Always have a check. It's something that you can utilize to say you did pay them, right? Like a receipt. Illegally large down payments. Again, this kind of ties into all of these, and that is when you are agreeing to have somebody perform any work on your house, whether it's your driveway, because that's I believe the number one problem we had with these construction scams in the area was a group of people that were promising to do work in and around your driveway and then asking for a large down payment and just never coming back. As a reminder, 10% of the work or $1,000, whichever one is less, is really all you're required to give as a down payment. 10% or $1,000, whichever one is less. Don't give more than that, because if you do, well, again, depending on who you're dealing with, but we are getting reports that folks are just not coming back. And so it becomes this problem where it very well may not be a crime. It may be a civil matter, depending on the circumstances, and we can't help you with that. So don't put down more money than you have to. Again, the website here gives you a lot of great information. Just about done here. So most common scams, police department asking for money. Again, the police department will never call you asking you for anything because somebody's got a warrant out for your name or what have you. We're never going to do that. IRS is calling folks saying that you owe this, that, and the other. If you don't, they're going to report you to the local police again. That's a scam. Hang up on them. We are seeing a local utility company, that is allegedly calling, asking for payment. They won't do that. Social Security, again, won't call asking for any information. They'll send you information through the mail. Bitcoin sellers, we've had a few people that are trying to buy Bitcoin through Craigslist or what have you. And guess what? Yeah, they're not getting anything in return. Online rental of homes, I talked about that. Opening of accounts in the victim name. Again, I just showed you a photo of that scam in Miami. Let's see. When we talk about cybercrime, I know most of you are familiar with using multi-factor authentication. This is where when you log into your account, it says, in order for you to log in, I have to send you a code to the number we have on file. And then once you get that code, you enter it into whatever account you're trying to log into, and then you're able to access it. You have to use multi-factor authentication nowadays, because if you don't, it's a lot easier for these crooks to try to get into your accounts. As I'm sure everyone's aware, use strong passwords. Don't use the word password, which a lot of people do. I bet you if we took a poll, there's probably one of you out there that probably uses the word password, right, in one way or another. Use antivirus software and always allow for automatic updates. That's going to be your best bet with anything that you do on the computer. Make sure you have antivirus software and you're allowing it to update automatically. I'll leave this up here for a second.
You know, one of the things that Sita was telling us about before was she's even seen a thing where they use the multi-factor by calling you and say, well, you're going to get a code, and when you get that text message, then give me the code. Now the thing is that you should only, if you get a text message for a code, you should be personally putting it in. What they were doing was using that code to actually open up another credit card under your name, and they use your phone number, and to the bank it looks like it. So that's, one of the things is always like, I think it was kind of like your stuff with the grammar mistakes.
Yeah.
You have to ask yourself, is this unusual? Is this unusual? Why is someone trying to help me on this? And I think that's the things, Captain, that, I could have easily fallen for the mistake that she was talking about. It's truly amazing.
Yes. I'm going to share a couple of local examples of scams here. And again, this is from the last few weeks, because I do want to paint that picture of what we're seeing here and how we all really need to take a moment to really think about those emails we're getting, the phone calls we're getting, question things, because we're seeing this every week. This particular victim, unfortunately, somebody used their account information and opened up some phone services. Loss was $10,000. The suspect in this particular case used the victim's personal information to access the victim's credit account and made fake purchases of over $71,000. This particular suspect used the victim's personal information, again, to access the victim's online wholesale account and made purchases for a total loss of $1,600. Victim communicated with suspects who claimed to be Bitcoin traders, right? And ultimately provided $24,000 to purchase cryptocurrency, but never received it. Scam. The victim contacted the suspects regarding an online posting offering a house for rent in Cupertino, and the victim transferred $5,000 to secure the rental, only to learn that it was a scam. The victim received information indicating that unknown suspects had used the victim's personal information to apply for unemployment benefits, and made a business claim for disaster assistance. Loss was over $50,000. And I don't want folks to think that this is happening and we're not actually arresting people, because we are. We've arrested a significant amount of people in the last 2 months. Oftentimes what happens is we'll find them because we'll do a car stop. Maybe their registration's expired, and in the car they'll have a lot of mail, a lot of items that clearly are not theirs. They'll have fake IDs, checks that are clearly not theirs. And so we'll do some research, and sure enough, they're involved in scams. And so those are just some examples of the cases we're seeing here in the last couple of weeks. This is second to last slide here. Personal safety. We're going into the holiday season. It's extremely important that we all take a moment to make sure that we're out and about. Well, hopefully we'll be able to go out and about, at least to see the pretty lights out there, to make sure that you're vigilant, aware of your surroundings. It's what we call situational awareness. If you're walking, taking your evening walks, you shouldn't have that phone attached to your ear. You really should be walking with sense of purpose, right? Don't allow folks to come near you. We have had a couple, this was last year. This year it's been relatively quiet. A couple of cases where in the evening, folks are on a walk and they're approached by someone with the intent of stealing their bag, purse, cell phone. And oftentimes the victims say, you know what, I didn't even see them. They came out of nowhere. So we want to make sure that folks are aware that this does happen out there. And so make sure that you walk with a friend, you're paying attention to your surroundings. If you are carrying a purse or a bag, secure it under your arms. Be aware of the cell phone location of it in your bag, in your back pocket, so that you can pick it out quickly and be able to call us. If you're driving to the location, yes, go ahead.
One of the ones that was quite pervasive around here was stealing of jewelry. My wife actually had her gold necklace stolen off of her. They stopped the car. They were asking directions. You bend over and they talk and they want to thank you. They go to put something on you and bam, the necklace was gone, right? And I know that several other people in the neighborhood have experienced those types of things. And so there's a whole thing also is, I think the key thing is don't let people come next to you. First, we're in COVID times now, so nobody should be getting next to you. But just like, they're good. They were so good. She never knew it had happened until she got home.
Yeah, and the key there is to definitely keep your distance, and using COVID as an excuse is great. You can't blame folks for saying, don't come too close to me, You definitely want to make sure you protect yourself while you're out and about. With that being said, that's it. That's my presentation. Please give us a call, talk to someone. If you have any question about anything that you saw here today, or if you have any questions about things you're getting in your email, something that just doesn't look right, a phone call, give us a call. Our dispatch center does take 911 calls via text messaging. So if you text 911 and you explain what you need there, they'll be able to direct you to the right location. We are asking folks to text 911 when you cannot call us. Otherwise, give us a call. If you have a tip on anything you'd like to share, there's our tip email address. Please feel free to send it to that account, because that does come here to the West Valley Patrol Division. I thank you on behalf of Sheriff Smith and all the men and women of the Sheriff's Office for allowing us to be here in your community, servicing you and being able to be a partner as we try to combat some of these scams that are absolutely ridiculous. And we're doing our best to try to get those guys and gals responsible. With that being said, Henry, it's all yours.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Captain. This is informative. Many people have commented on that. One of the questions that someone had was, is there a particular way to figure out what type of antivirus software they should be using? And I guess nowadays it's even not just on your PC, but maybe even on your phone or your tablet.
Yeah, there are a plethora of programs out there. What I would ask is that you do so depending on what type of security you're looking for, there are different products out there. And so just do some work, do some research. Don't jump on the first one that you see. I could mention a few, but I'd rather not. You just want to make sure you do your research to find the one that fits what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, I think it's difficult for us audience because, we're not to play favorites with different vendors. I would tell you that I started using a different web browser just because they have a thing in it where it stops and asks you, like, that might be suspicious. Are you sure you want to do that? Now, the downside of it, it doesn't work as well as Chrome does in some of the things. So, if something's going wrong, you have to think, okay, fire up Chrome and do that. But, I'd look at what it is and I'd ask your friends, see what they'd recommend. Dale also had a question. He said, he wanted to make a comment about our Craigslist. If the inquiry on your ad says item, it's a scam. Now, I'm not sure exactly what Dale had for that, but I just wanted to bring it up. It was in the Q&A. Actually, right now, if people would have a question they'd like to ask verbally, if you can raise your hand, then Sita can call on you. Sita, are you ready to allow people to raise their hand?
Yes, they should be able to raise your. Yeah, I see one coming up, so let me get to it.
Okay, remember that once she selects you and unmutes you, have to hit your unmute button too. Dale.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so on the Craigslist, I do a fair amount of Craigslist, and basically it's so easy to tell the scams. There's the identity one of, make sure that you're a real person, which is the scam trying to get your number. But in terms of the responses, usually what will happen is it's a computer automated script that will respond to an ad and says, I'm interested in your item. Well, you're advertising a computer. Anybody that's real would say, I'm looking at I'm interested in your computer. Here it is, blah, blah, blah. But all the scams come in as item because it's an automated process. So they don't actually tag that. They will put the URL of the ad in, but they don't necessarily put what the item is. That was one thing. The other thing I wanted to mention was, to the best of my knowledge, it's been confirmed that Adobe is discontinuing Flash Player as of January 1 of this coming year. And that is a big source of virus, malware, and phishing. So if after that, you can verify it, but after that, after January 1st, like Apple's already put it into Safari, that they will not allow it to run in Safari. And that means that when they get those famous virus messages, your Flash player is out of date, it's not real.
Sounds very good, Dale. Sounds like you know a lot about this. Hopefully they didn't take advantage of you.
I've seen enough around me, but I've never been hit because I actually been doing IT for many years. So
very good. Very good. Is there any other hands raised out there, Sita?
No, I just saw no hands raised. And,
why don't we go ahead and do the last poll, if we could, for our audience really quickly?
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, and also if you want a link to the recording, we are recording this, and we will try to get this information out to you. Also with links to our other videos, because I think this is a really interesting topic. By the way, share this with your friends and relatives, right? Everything that Captain Urena's told us here applies to pretty much every place in the United States right now. So let's all try to help each other out. And remember, get that buddy system going. You if something sounds bothering you, get you upset, talk to someone. Okay, let's close the poll now. And Captain, thank you so much. I think this has been such a valuable thing because you've been able to show us what's actually going on in our community. It's the stuff that's all around for us. We know we shouldn't be embarrassed about it because it's happening to so many of our friends and relatives. we know that we should be reporting it. And I think that's an important thing, because you say you are actually arresting people, and that's great. So I know you need the information, and it might be just that little bit that gets it over the hump. And people are on the chat and everything thanking you. So once again, thank you very much.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.